welcome to my channel. As the title says, today we'll talk about this baby right here. Yep, this baby. Since it was announced that this was coming out, I've been so excited, so let's get into it. My goal today is to dive into the initial quotes on the book that Suzanne Collins gives us. It's this page right here. And we have a quote from George Orwell, one from William Blake, and 2 quotes from David Hume. And you may ask, why do I want to dive into these? Because these literally explain the whole book in a way. And so my goal is to look into them and kind of relate them to the book, and also, relate them to our lives, because a lot of the things on these quotes, you can literally bring them into your life, and I think they will help us in a lot of things, and you'll see. So let's get started. I'm going to divide these quotes into 3 topics. The first one is gonna be truth, lies, and propaganda, implicit submission, and lastly, deductive and inductive reasoning. So let's start with the first one. There are 2 quotes here around that topic, and we have one from George Orwell, which says, "All propaganda is lies, even when one is telling the truth. I don't think this matters so long as one knows what one is doing and why." And then we have one from William Blake, which goes, "A truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent." Let's start with George Orwell. When he says that all propaganda is lies even when we're telling the truth, it just means that all propaganda in itself has an intrinsic nature to distort, manipulate, and mold truth to serve a specific agenda. So basically, the propaganda is used to both achieve and maintain power. We can look at page 15, which is where we have the Panem propaganda, which goes, "No peace, no bread. No peace, no security. No peacekeepers, no peace. No capital, no peace." And then they see President Snow's photo, and it says, "Panem's #1 peacekeeper." And we have it again on page 60, which continues in the same lines of, "No peace, no prosperity. No Hunger Games, no peace." Just trying to convince everyone that President Snow, the peacekeepers, the games, they're all necessary. And without them, there's no peace. We have Plutarch on the book saying to Drusilla, "We've got footage of the peacekeepers controlling the crowd. It could be an opportunity to hit the no peacekeeper, no peace angle." So basically, the Hunger Games is the best propaganda that the capital has at that point. That's why they hide from the public everything that happens behind cameras, everything that can prove their ideology wrong. And people deep down, they know this, and that's why they refuse to put on a show for them. I think this moment from the book where Lenore is saying goodbye to Amish is really important. I'm grateful for her final gift, that she's denied Plutarch the chance to broadcast our farewell. The moment our hearts shattered, it belongs to us. Yeah, this is like beautifully sad. I think that's how I would describe it. Thomas Hobbes and Leviathan, which was written in the 17th century, he wrote about the natural state of man being violent, anarchic, where everyone's constantly at war with each other. And that is exactly what Snow wants to show people in the capital and just people around Panem. When he puts children fighting in the Hunger Games, he's basically saying, see, if you don't have me, if you don't have the peacekeepers, if you don't have the capital and the government behind it, this is what will happen everywhere. So you should be thankful. The No Peace campaign that I mentioned is just used to justify the capital's existence. Once again, Snow showing the people of Panem that they need him. Now I want to talk a little bit about William Blake's quote, because if you remember, it says, "A truth that's told with bad intent beats all lies you can invent." And I want to look into Amish's situation just to explain this quote here. For example, in the interview with Caesar before the games, he tells everyone that is watching that the peacekeepers buy illegal alcohol from him. And this is truth, right? He's telling the truth. But he has a bad intent behind it, which is to stain not only the peacekeeper's image, but the capital's image. And being honest and true to himself led him to lose everything he loved. And you know, the things that happen in this story is not just because of this only situation, but it's a growing amount of things that he does that kind of relates to this quote and the idea behind it. So I feel like this quote really represents his situation the best way possible. He's being honest, he's saying the truth, but he has a bad intent towards the capital with it, which makes it worse than lying. For him, of course. And I think that's a very important message in terms of this propaganda topic. Now, we have a big quote coming up, but stay with me. Nothing appears more surprising to those who consider human affairs with a philosophical eye than the easiness with which the many are governed by the few, and the implicit submission with which men resign their own sentiments and passions to those of their rulers. When we inquire by what means this wonder is effected, we shall find that as force is always on the side of the governed, the governors have nothing to support them but opinion. It is therefore on opinion only that government is founded. It continues, but I feel like the most important information is here. So Suzanne Collins, on her interview, that I will link down below if you want to into all of it, she says that in terms of implicit submission, she wanted to do it on 3 different levels. On an individual level, in terms of the games, and also on a national level. First, what's implicit submission? It's when we submit to something because we think we have to, but if we think about it, we really don't. On the individual level, let's talk about image. For him, his implicit submission is that he has to submit to the capital and he can't do anything about it. But what we see in the book is that he constantly tries to ruin the capital's image. So does he have to submit to the capital, actually? Or can he defeat it? Can he stop the games? We know he really didn't, but I think it's important to keep in mind that he didn't at the time, but you know, if you read the other Hunger Games books, you know that it did happen. So in reality, did they have to submit to all of it? Did they really have to submit to 50 years of games? No, but they did because they thought they had to. This is what implicit submission is, thinking you have to submit to something when in reality you don't. In terms of the game, we know that the careers are always seen as the favorite ones and the ones with the most probability of winning the game. So basically, the other kids from the other districts, in a way, implicitly submit to them. This is what Ampert is trying to defeat in a way. By creating the Newcomers Alliance, he's trying to go against that submission that happens every single year. Do we actually have to submit to these people just because they're seen as the favorite ones? Just because they might have bigger chances than us to win? So Ampert and these Newcomers Alliance is really to go against that. And on a national level, is the entire country, both districts and the capital, submitting to Snow and his rules? Do they have to? Why do we give power to one person and we just follow what that person says? And if you think about it on a bigger scale, it's like, oh, but if you don't follow the rules, you're gonna get arrested. Okay, but the police that is arresting you, they're also following those rules. They're also submitting to those rules. You know what I mean? It's just a snowball effect. And I think it's really interesting to think of that. And that makes you think, like, are we actually satisfied with our choices, or have we just never thought about a better alternative for them? We can apply this to our daily lives in the most random things. Sometimes we feel like we need to submit to certain people, to certain situations, but do you actually have to? Can't we really not find a better solution if it means to put in the effort to change our reality. Sometimes we just think we have to submit to certain things, when in reality you don't. If someone's treating you badly, do you really have to put up with it? Just think for yourself, like, do I have to submit to this? Why am I submitting to this? Why am I submitting to someone's behavior? And this is just one example of many, but it really makes you think, like, why do we sometimes do the things that we do and accept the things that we accept? First, let's explain each one of these. So deductive reasoning is top-down logic, which goes from general to specific. And I'm going to give you the examples that Suzanne Collins gives on her interview, just because I think they're good examples and they're fun. So for deductive reasoning, she gives the example of all human beings need oxygen to survive. I am a human being, I need oxygen to survive. So you go from the general to the specific, and that way you're most probably going to be right. But the inductive reasoning is when we do the opposite. It's when we go from the specific to general. My cat Zorro loves yogurt. Your cat Fluffy loves yogurt. Therefore, all cats love yogurt. But do they? It might be probable if you observe a lot of cases, but it will never be a certainty. And that's where faulty inductive reasoning comes in, which means that we say something will happen in the future just because it did in the past or it happened today. We're just assuming that the future will happen like the past. So would the sun rise tomorrow? David Hume would say no. That the sun will not rise tomorrow is no less intelligible a proposition and implies no more contradiction than the affirmation that it will rise. His way of thinking is, just because something has been happening until now, it doesn't mean it will keep happening. And in the book, we have Amish and Lenore discussing it, which I think is one of my favorite dialogues in this book. So Amish says, "The reaping's going to happen no matter what I believe, sure as the sun will rise tomorrow." And Lenore Dove says, "Well, there's no proof that will happen. You can't count on things happening tomorrow just because they happened in the past. It's faulty logic." "Is it?" says Amish. "Because it's kind of how people plan out their lives. And that's part of our trouble, thinking things are inevitable, not believing change is possible." And Lenore Dove continues by saying, "Think about it. You're saying today's my birthday and there's a reaping. Last year on my birthday there was also a reaping, so every year there will be a reaping on my birthday. But you have no way of knowing that. I mean, the reaping didn't even exist until 50 years ago. Give me one good reason why it should keep happening just because it's your birthday." And I think this is very powerful. Lenore basically uses this example to convince Amish that he can take action towards a better future. Just because there's been a reaping on his birthday all this time, it doesn't mean that it will keep on happening forever. And once again, I truly believe this is an amazing ideology to apply to our lives. Just because you've been waking up tired, it doesn't mean you're gonna wake up tired tomorrow. Just because you've been trying to post content online and you've been getting 300 views, it doesn't mean tomorrow you won't have a viral video. We cannot predict what will happen in our lives based on the past. I truly believe we just think about it because since the future is unpredictable and we hate that, it brings us some type of comfort to just think about what could happen. Think about possibilities, but none of them are real because they haven't happened yet. And they might not happen that way. We just want to be prepared for the future, but the truth is that you can't because you don't know what it will look like. This shouldn't be something scary. We shouldn't be scared. I'm talking to myself. We shouldn't be scared about not knowing what the future will look like. We should truly just focus on the present and take action now towards what we want the future to look like, but never really make a prediction for it. The future can be a million things, so let's not constrict ourselves to just one possibility. This is what I had to say today. I really enjoyed this book, and if you read it, which I hope you did, because if not, you got a lot of spoilers now. But if you did, let me know what you thought about it. Let me know your thoughts on these quotes as well, on these topics, and how Suzanne Collins applied them to the book. I think she did an amazing job, and I loved every single moment of it, even though it really hurt me deep down. But I still loved it. Now, before ending, I just want to talk about some things, like some details that I got from the book that I just think it's really nice that the author did that. For example, knowing the origin of Katniss's Mockingjay pin. I also loved getting some background information on characters that we already know from the other movies, but we never really got to know them. And also the presence of the poison blueberries that Maisley, if I'm not wrong, gets to put on her arrows. I just think it's a really cool connection to the first movie. It just shows that the blueberries have been there. They have been there in the past. They've been there, but no one ever thought how those blueberries could defy the government, could defy snow. And then Katniss and Peeta go to the games, and then she does what she does with the blueberries, and it's just, they've been there before, but she saw them as an opportunity and she took it. And that's what we have to do with our lives. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm planning to do some more things in the future. I would like to do some more book analysis, kind of like this. But I also enjoy to just talk about life and talk about things that can motivate us to just follow our dreams and do the things we want to do but we're scared of. So just let me know whatever you want me to talk about. I have some ideas for the future, but all ideas are welcome. If you liked the video, please leave a like. It's gonna help me a lot. And subscribe to know what other videos I'm gonna post in the future. And I hope to see you soon.